What's up, Modern Contractor TV? In today's episode, we're going to sit down with Dan Platta from Best Damn Bookkeeping. Dan is not your typical bookkeeper. He is not a bookkeeper who's going to send you your P&L at the end of the month and send you an invoice along with it. Not at all. He actually sends you a video breakdown of your numbers, line by line, explaining if your numbers are off, where you are comparing to the benchmarks in your industry, how you compare from the previous month, from the previous year. He really gives a deep dive on your numbers and he guides you with all financial decisions. I would say he's probably closer to a CFO than he is to a bookkeeper. He comes from the home service industry himself. He built a cleaning business along with a power washing business to multiple locations. He was flying all over the country. Well, that's when he decided he was strong in finance and he started helping out some of his friends and family with their bookkeeping and their businesses. And that's when he decided to go all in and start Best Damn Bookkeeping. Dan's a very interesting guy. He knows his stuff when it comes to finances and bookkeeping. This is a very interesting episode, and I'm looking forward to getting into this episode with Dan, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
You're listening to Modern Contractor TV, the show for home service pros who want to build real business value, scale profits, and create a company that doesn't rely on them day to day. Hosted by entrepreneur, author, and advisor Teddy Slack, a builder of multiple seven-figure service businesses. Each episode brings you real-world strategies to help you grow, systemize, and prepare for a profitable exit. Let's get into it.
All right, Modern Contractor TV. Today we have Dan Platta on the show. I'm excited to speak to him. He's from Best Damn Bookkeeping, and excited because he comes from the home service space initially, and then he eventually went into bookkeeping full time, and now he's got a podcast and he's out there hitting the streets and he's just doing some great things in the bookkeeping space. And I think this is a topic that you guys should all pay attention to because this is a lot of people's thorn in their side for business owners. Is what I hear from a lot of my clients is bookkeeping is a nightmare, keeping the books clean, all that type of stuff. So we're going to dive in today. What's going on, Dan?
Man, just good to be here. I love making bookkeeping not boring. And that's what we're about to do. We're gonna make it fun.
Yeah, I love that. I saw that on your LinkedIn, making it not suck, I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, for sure. Cause it is. I mean, it's something, like I said, it's a thorn in most contractors' sides. Like they hate dealing with the books. And I hear this from most guys. This is what they tell me. Well, I have a bookkeeper for that. I have an accountant. I don't deal with the books. I'm like, no. You have to know your numbers. You have to pay attention to that stuff because it's literally the backbone of your business.
Yeah. I actually had a call with a guy earlier this week and just was like helping him with some stuff. And he's like, so how do I organize my QuickBooks and how do I do this? And I said, that you leave to somebody like me. I don't care if it's me or somebody else, but you don't need to be an accountant, but you do need to know what the data means and how to make decisions with it. So I actually, a lot of times I'm like up on stage speaking and kind of laying out my bookkeeping jam. I always try to remind contractors that bookkeeping is a finance thing. Like it's an accounting activity, but it has a finance purpose. It's not just something some fat old lady in a dark room in a basement is doing. Like it's not something you do to do your taxes. It serves that purpose, but that's not the point of it. The point of it is that you need really good data to help you run your business so you can make better decisions, so you can make more money and grow and provide more opportunities for other awesome people. And if you have good books, I made a post earlier this week. We had one of our clients that I'll say like in our process when we're doing our nerdy thing at the end of the month, we record a video analysis for all of our clients. Because again, like it's not just like, oh, here you go, here's some data. Because if I sent any of our clients a P&L, most of them would be like, what does it mean? So we tell them what it means. And one of the things I found with one of our clients is that he's just paying way too much for insurance. And like we know by industry what they should spend on everything. So we send them a report card. Except ours we don't give letter grades. Because we're numbers people, we're not like middle school teachers here. So we send them like green, yellow, red. How are you doing against industry standards? And it was really obvious, like where this guy was struggling was just his infrastructure costs were high and mostly insurance, which insurance is just expensive and it's getting more expensive. But he was able to go back and like rebid it and save $30,000. Like, wow. Damn, what can you do with $30,000 in your pocket? Like that, it was outstanding. But we need that data from our books to know what to go attack. Like, is it our marketing that's not working? Is it our cost of goods sold that we need to create some efficiency in the field? So when we can help our clients understand what to actually focus on, right? And like give them the clarity of like, hey, this is what you should be working on right now. Don't worry about this process or that process. Like I can tell in your numbers where you're not hitting the targets that you want to hit. It just gives you that confidence as a business owner, like get after the right thing and attack the right spot in your business.
No, I love that. Absolutely. And you don't, that's not typical from most bookkeepers or even accountants. I mean, from my experience, and I've been doing 20 years in the home service space, what happened with me is I would just get an accountant that come and they want to charge you monthly and they send you your P&L. Like you said, here's your reports. Oh, wow, what do I do with this? You know what I mean? The first 15 years, I had no clue what I was doing. And then I started reading and educating myself and started learning about the books. And I'm like, all right, yeah, this is what's going to help me make data-driven decisions on, how to improve my business. Like you said, how to hire, where to spend marketing, that type of stuff. I mean, no, that's really good. That's amazing that you do that, because most guys, like I said, they don't do that. But yeah, I'd like to hear a little bit about your backstory though. So you were in home service space, right? You were doing power washing. Like, was that your own business? Kind of give me a little bit of history of like how you got into this and how you started in home service space.
Yeah, I'll give you the background. So I was working in the corporate world doing, what my parents wanted me to do, which was go to college, get a job, and then you stay there the rest of your life and keep grinding it out for the man, and then you retire, right? That's what you're supposed to do. So I was on that path, and I was actually doing great in the corporate world and had some great leaders and mentors and cool opportunities. And then I sat down, at the time I was dating my wife. Now we got 3 kids and she's stuck with me. But at the time we were just dating, but like we were thinking about buying a house together and like things were getting serious. So we met with a financial advisor who was like a mutual friend of a friend situation. And I knew who he was, but we sat down and started working with him. And like a few months later, he said, hey, I'm leaving this business. He was at Northwestern Mutual. He said, hey, I'm leaving. I just got this passion to go buy small businesses and try to like turn them around and find the right leader or find the right opportunity to sell it or whatever. Like I just got this wild hair I got to go do. And as a finance guy, I was like, dude, that sounds cool. Like, let me know how I can help. So I was still at the corporate world, but as he started making investments in small businesses, he and I would get together like once or twice a week at the Starbucks and we'd just be nerding out on business models. The first business that this like, I'll say like holding company is effectively what we had with a few different investors. We bought a background check and like tenant screening business, which is a recurring service model, turned it around and ended up selling it for a great return. And while we were kind of in that process, we bought a window cleaning company with zero strategy. We weren't like, home services. The window cleaning company literally came up from the same broker we had bought the background check business from. And the reason was it was so cheap that you couldn't afford not to buy it. Like the guy had some tax issues. And so he basically had to bail. And so he was selling his business for next to nothing. And so we bought it under the strategy of what's the worst that could happen. And so it came with a creepy white van and 2 employees, but one was like 350 pounds and was the ground guy because he couldn't climb a ladder, like for safety reasons. And so we turned that tiny little, I think they were doing like 60,000 in revenue. It was like I'm surprised they had
barely a business. Yeah.
I was like nothing. We didn't know any better. We hadn't cleaned windows before. But we turned that into a $400,000 to $500,000 business in a couple of years, figuring it out. And then we made the biggest mistake we had ever made, which in hindsight, like tons of blessings. One of those things where it's like, I don't regret it, but I'd never do it again. We said, hey, we figured this thing out. Let's go buy more of these and do the same thing. So all of a sudden, then we owned a window cleaning business in Cincinnati. And then one of those employees, her dad had a window cleaning business in Portland, and we bought his business from him. So now we had 3 locations. And then we said, well, and all of this time I'm still working in the corporate world, but now I'm like helping do these acquisitions and figure stuff out. And then our strategy became, hey, like we're doing everything on the outside of the house. We're window cleaning, we're pressure washing. I don't remember if we had gotten into holiday lights at that point or not yet, but eventually we did. Then we said, well, we got this seasonal business, right? We're like shut down for 4 months and we could get into snow removal, but that game kind of sucks. And we're not set up. We're not like landscapers. We don't have big trucks. We're not set up for it. So we said, why don't we clean the inside of the house? And then we started buying maid service businesses. So all of a sudden we had 10 different entities, like business structures. We had 7 different locations around the country with like 100 employees. And that was about the point where I came on to run it full time. And so we had this, my wife was in an MBA program full time. And so I didn't want to leave my corporate gig until she got back into the the world of making some money. And then I could go screw around. So the minute she ended up getting a job, we're in Minneapolis. So she got a job at 3M right out of school. And then I was like, all right, I'm doing the small business thing and I'm going to go make half as much money and work twice as hard. It's gonna be super fun.
Exactly. That's exactly how it is.
It totally is. And like, I knew it, but it's like, you know it, but you don't, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't, there's no substitute for the hustle. Like
No.
it's like trial by fire, right? Like you just figure it out. So we really ran that for quite a while, but never could figure out the leadership model of having so many employees around the country. And I mentioned this, I think, before we jumped on, but like bookkeeping was an accidental business for me. One of our entities, when we had all these businesses, one of our entities was an admin company to serve all of our businesses. So like I would do the books for all of our businesses, and then our businesses would pay our holding company, like our admin function, kind of a shared service fee. And we did the recruiting for our companies. We did the marketing for our companies. And our dream was we're going to have like 50 locations and we're going to scale these things up. And maybe someday we'll add lawn care and someday we'll add plumbing, right? Like full on home service thing. The thing we could never crack was we couldn't find the right leader. And therefore I was like flying around the country and like I'm trying to lead, but I didn't have the right local leaders to actually like on the ground thing. And the businesses weren't quite big enough to really do it. And I think that's why a lot of those types of businesses franchise is like there needs to be an owner there until you hit a certain size. And even then it's really tricky. And so we ended up selling a bunch of those locations just where we didn't feel like we had the right leader. And while that was happening, kind of when I was like, I just don't know if we got this thing dialed in, I started helping other people with their books. Like I did it all for all our companies. I had set it up. I had built every structure and strategy we had from a financial perspective. And it was one of those things where it's like one guy came and said, hey, I'm paying somebody to do my books, but Mike, who was my business partner, was actually looking at investing in his business. And they were like, who knows what this business is worth? The books are so jacked up. And I was like, you're paying somebody, I think he was paying like $800 a month. And his books sucked, and he had no idea, right? He doesn't know what they're supposed to look like, and so he just knows they're getting done. But I was like, they're definitely not done right. Like I don't know how you guys got your taxes done with these things. So I jumped in and fixed them, and then the classic like no good deed goes unpunished. He says, "Well, can you keep doing them for me?" Like I guess I don't know how much to charge. I don't So all of a sudden you got to figure out a business model. So it was like one client turned to 10 clients, turned to 100, turned to 300.
Wow.
And so you kind of, in that business, I actually exited. I made the mistake of, I rolled it in with everything else we had, but I was the minority partner, but I was the operator. And so like I built something for my business partners and then said, wait a second, like this doesn't fit any of our home service stuff. Like this is just Dan being a nerd. And so 2 years ago, I guess 23 months ago, not quite 2 years yet, I restarted and started Best Damn Bookkeeping, just me doing my jam. But again, it's like our strategy sucked. My execution sucked, but it was this like weird long tail way of realizing like the thing that sucked me out of the corporate world into the home services in the first place was truly helping Mike, my original business partner, with his books, with acquisitions. And I loved it. And I was passionate about it. Running maid services and window cleaning companies around the country. I enjoy working hard. Like I liked being out in the field. I liked answering the phone. I liked flying down to St. Louis to like meet with my team down there, out to Cleveland or wherever I was. But as my, like with the little kids, I'm at the catalyst where I realized something had to change is I was traveling 2 weeks in a row for conventions. And then I thought I was going to be home, but then my general manager in St. Louis resigned. And I had to go find a new general manager. And so right when I think I'm supposed to be home, I got to go back on the road. And I missed my 4-year-old's birthday party. And now I'm not the sort of dude that's like, nice, a 4-year-old birthday party. I can't wait to go to that. But when it's your kid and you're like, shit, I'm the dad that's not there at a birthday. I was like, I can't. I'm out on this. So that was when I realized I really got to like focus on the bookkeeping thing and make that be my baby. So here we are.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I have 7 kids, so I know where you're coming from. And that is definitely a driver that'll change your life for sure and make you want to be around, in the first, 10, 12, 15 years when I was in, my business, I wasn't around. I was the guy who was same thing. I was just inside the business. I was running every piece of the operation, even though I had employees. I was just way too involved. I didn't learn about getting out of the business until about 15 years in, and that's when my whole life changed. So, it makes a big difference when you can set it up right. You have a structure like you're talking about this. I'm sure you do it probably virtually to anybody in the country, right? You could offer this service to, so you could do it from home, which is really nice, you know?
Yep. Sitting in the spare bedroom right now.
Nice. Yeah.
Just living. I got this like 20-yard walk across the house. It's probably not even 20 yards.
Yeah.
15-yard walk across the house to get over here.
Yeah. No, that's amazing, man. And so this has now been 24 months. So are you able to scale us up pretty quickly?
Hilariously fast. Just because I had done it once before, it's like a cheat code. Once you've done one business,
100%. Yeah.
And like I tell, we do books for quite a few maid services, and like lawn care folks, and they're the same business model, right? It's a recurring service model. And bookkeeping is the same way. I always tell our maid service clients that we work with, like they offer, cleanings weekly, bi-weekly, or every 4 weeks or something like that. And I'm like, we only do weekly. Like we're just a maid service company. We clean your books. And we're in there every single damn week because you need to know your numbers. And if your numbers are more than a week or two old, like they're just getting stale. So we're super active. But yeah, we can do it from anywhere. So I have account managers in the US. Like every one of our clients gets an account manager that's truly an account manager, like helping them work on their business. And then I'm kind of behind the scenes playing CFO when they need to like double down on a strategy session. And then we have a bookkeeping team in the Philippines that's kind of the technician that's categorizing stuff, reconciling stuff. So every client of ours gets 2 people tagged to them. We just do a kick-ass job helping them get good numbers and make decisions.
No, that's awesome. So do you get involved too with like even like getting involved with pricing and pricing strategies and stuff like that? You speak to your clients about that type of stuff too to improve the profits of the business?
Yeah, anything. Finance covers everything, right? And like I said, when we had our admin company at my old business, we had a recruiting function, we had a marketing function. And so I've got a lot of experience in those things. I'm not going to like build somebody a website, but everything in your business, I don't care if it's employee engagement, like it's the fluffiest thing. It's always an investment and it always has to have a return. So when I look at financials, whether it's pricing, whether it's recruiting, whether it's marketing acquisition cost, it touches everything. So I'll be on a call with a client and we'll go like through all those phases. Like I said, the best part about the bookkeeping is when we organize it and like send them their report card and video at the end of the month. If pricing isn't an issue, we don't have to worry about it, right? And I can see in somebody's gross margin really quickly if pricing is an issue. But if it's not, we're not going to spend any time on it. But I can see maybe marketing's the issue. I can see if maybe their admin team is the issue and that they've got, a bunch of people working behind the scenes on the business, but they don't have a way to hold them accountable or incentivize them or whatever. So the books like tell us what to work on. And then that coaching or CFO time with me is always just dedicated to like, here's some ways to work on this thing, right? Here, either stuff that I've done or I have the luxury of I get to watch what everybody's doing. And so I get to see what's working and what's not working, right? So I'm constantly, it's like I'm reading a book every day because I'm just talking to business owners about what works for them and what doesn't work for them. So it helps me help everybody.
That's awesome. So as far as home service companies, who would you say, maid services and things like that, but like what other types of home service companies do you work with right now?
A lot of trades, HVAC, plumbing, electrical stuff, tons of green industry stuff, the landscapers, the lawn care guys, pest control. It is funny. I had kind of one of the more oddball ones. Like I try to stay exclusively in the home service space. We just have so much expertise there. But any cert, right? I could do it for a chiropractor or a veterinarian. A goofy one that I did that almost like shocked me how similar it was to the stuff that we do is a realtor asked me if I could do their books. And I was like, yeah, I've never been in realty, so I don't have like that industry expertise. I've bought houses, sold houses, so like that's my experience. But like bookkeeping is bookkeeping, so we'll see if we can add some value. And so we got all this stuff figured out. And I was looking at his books and I was like, damn, dude, you're basically running a window cleaning company. The only difference in his business model, like percentage wise, if I looked at how much he spent compared to our window cleaning and pressure washing business, how much he spent on cost of goods sold, percentage wise, same target as how much he would spend on marketing, same target. How much he spent on his admin team, same target. Like the spend per decision type was very similar to any home service business. The only difference was his average ticket was like 400,000 and ours was like 400, but he would just do a job or two a month. Right. And we're doing hundreds of jobs in a week. So, but it was so funny. It's like anything that's a service-based business, the model, like we're all shooting for somewhere between like 15 to 25% net profit as we scale. Like that's pretty general. And if it's a service-based business, it always kind of lands into the same business model structure. There's a little nuance to it, but it astounded me how similar it was to the type of stuff we're doing with home service companies.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. I mean, I see the same thing across the board. I mean, it is really the same. As far as those profit margins too, like some of the things I talk to my clients about is that like flat rate pricing to try to increase that gross margin. Where do you see a lot of your clients? Like, where do you see a lot of the bottlenecks or a lot of the issues that are like kind of reoccurring with the home service contractors? Where as soon as you look at their books, you're like, oh, this is it. It's like a reoccurring thing. What would you say that is?
I have a thing that I coach on. I call it the purgatories of scaling. And scaling isn't right for everybody. Like everybody, like a lot of us get into the business because we're good at the trade.
Yep. Most guys that get into home service businesses, that's how they get in. They were a foreman for a company before. They had the experience, just like that's how I got into it. I was an equipment operator. Yeah, exactly. So they're really, I mean, I would say that's the majority of home service owners. It's like they're really good at the thing, but when it comes to the business aspect of it, they didn't learn because nobody taught them. They don't teach it in school. You don't learn it in high school. You don't learn it in college. Even I have a 4-year college degree. I didn't learn anything there. And when I went out and I got put into the trades and I started like doing the thing, that's when I started really learning it. Then I started reading books. That's where I really started to get educated. It's like you start to read about how other guys are doing it. And you're like, oh, okay, this is how you're supposed to do it,
Yep. Yeah. The mistakes have all already been made, right? Yep. It's just whether you can find the right person or the right mentor that can teach you the ones that they made, so you don't have to make the same ones. But when I'm talking to people about the purgatories, I'm usually trying to figure out, and I'll go through the kind of the first 3 that I usually see. But again, like it's if you're scaling, you run into those. Not everybody is meant to scale. Not everybody should be a CEO. Some people are better off just being like the dude with a helper. There's a lot of profit to be made as a dude with a helper. And it's sexy to think scaling, that you're going to like scale a business, but you create a different set of problems. And sometimes it's not the actual set of problems that you want. And I've been there. I've scaled businesses and been like, oh shit, this isn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to be.
It happens pretty quick. Yeah. It happens pretty quick. Yeah, for sure.
And it's always a new set of problems. And I tend to find it's driven. And again, I'll go through kind of like the main ones that I see, and it's consistent across industries, but it's always it starts with the people. So typically when we start, it's us with maybe a helper, and we hit our first purgatory when we start trying to get off the truck, and we're going to like hire the second crew, and then we got to go sell more. And maybe we need an admin person, and we don't have training systems, and we don't trust the dudes, and we don't have a recruiting system. So we hire, I call it dumpster hiring. We just hire the first person that comes along that's good enough, and then we bitch about them because we're not good at recruiting. So we bitch about that nobody wants to work hard anymore, and you can't find good help. And really, we just need to go look in a mirror. Like there's successful companies out there with great employees. It's just easier to complain than it is to solve that problem. Like a good recruiting system takes time to build. Yes. There's an art to it. And so we figure that out. That's like purgatory number 1 is figuring out how to like get us off the truck and like get, crew leads even. You might not have like an ops manager or production manager yet, but just somebody to like run the team so you're not out at every job.
Correct.
Then you run into it when you need like an office manager to run the back office and you start like delegating some sales stuff. That's kind of purgatory number 2. You need an ops manager, you need an office manager, you need a marketing person, whatever. Again, it's all people related and it's hats you're wearing, and not all of us have the skill set to like teach other people how to do those jobs or learn them ourselves. And so you kind of get stuck there. And the revenue, I won't give revenue numbers, like in different industries, it's different. But it's always like these people moments. The third purgatory is when we start needing a leadership team. We can usually grow a business, again, super dependent, like revenue levels, window cleaning and pressure washing. Once people get over like $1 million, this happens. Maid service, kind of the same thing. HVAC is closer to like 3 to 5 million because you're installing equipment. Like
big ticket.
It tends to be in like the 10 to 15 employee range. We start needing a leadership team, and all of a sudden we can't be the only ones growing the business. Like up until we have that many people on our team, usually it's us doing the marketing, doing the sales, like we are the growth thing. I'm still there in this bookkeeping business. I'm the salesperson. We got 20 people on our team. Like in 2 years, we're up to 20 people. We scaled fast. Like I said, kind of had a cheat code. I've done it before. But I'm still the bottleneck. Like the growth of this business is dependent on me. It's going on a podcast, making posts, right? Running ads, doing demo calls. And so we can hustle it up about to here. And then we start needing help.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find other people that think and work like a business owner. I won't say lucked out. Again, like I have run a recruiting business. I actually own part of Hire Lead Chill, which is a digital recruiting agency, just like you would hire to help you with Google Ads. Our recruiting business helps people find good employees. So I have a little bit of a cheat code on that to try to find the right people for those things. But I know I'm looking for somebody that can actually like think like a business owner and help me. Like right now, our manager is actually looking at our next CRM. I'm not even looking at it. He's the one that runs the day to day, right? Like, and you need somebody that can carry that weight so you can be.
Yeah, you can't do it all.
Right? Yeah, and
you can't do it all. You can only take it to so far on your own, and you have to start delegating. And that's what I tell my clients. I always tell them like 80%. If you could get someone to do it as 80% as good as you, like if you do it, it'll be 100% in your mind. But like if you hand it off, it's 80%. Like you got to be okay with that, because otherwise, if you have to control every decision, every aspect of the business, you're only going to be able to take it so far, and you're going to basically just get yourself into a job, or you have a job. Like, and that's one of the things that I learned back in like 2018. And I started getting myself out of the business, and once I did that, it was the best feeling in the world. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't have to, like, if I don't show up, this thing is still going to print profit. I don't have to come in and do sales, do the marketing, do the finance, and I had, probably around 13 to 15 employees at that point. And I mean, at one point I had 70 employees and I ran very similar, but I had some people on my team that were more of a management role at that point. And there was companies all over the place. I had companies in Ohio. I had companies in Pennsylvania. I similar to your story. I went all these different directions, and
it gets spread thin. And you're like, my head's going to fly off.
You can't, I try to hustle my way through it. And that's when everything kind of crashed and burned for me. I was like, all right, this is not the way to do it. And that's when I started reading and I started figuring it out. That's when I started getting myself out of the day to day. And it was like a completely different business. I actually went from hating the industry I was in and hating my business to loving it again. I was like, whoa, this is cool. Like I'm doing high level stuff, and I didn't get myself out of the day to day to where I didn't like care about the business anymore. I was literally just doing more high level stuff. I created a YouTube channel at that point, which I would have never had the time to do that. I did a podcast for that business. I did a bunch of stuff that I would have never been able to work on, more higher level, growth stuff. And it was just amazing. And I try to tell all my clients, like, you have to do this. This has got to be a priority. Unless, like you said, you're a guy in a truck and you're good with that and you don't want to scale, that's okay too. But just know that you have a job. That business is not sellable. No one's going to buy that, So like, if you're okay with all that, then, there's nothing wrong with it if that makes you happy,
I had a guy on my show last night who's a good hunting buddy of mine. I think he's turning 30, like younger dude. But he's been at it for a while, and he originally started doing pressure washing, and his strategy of like running that business, he had same story. Like he had helped somebody else with the pressure washing business, worked in one, knew how to do it, said, I'm going to do it myself because I want the freedom to go hunting and fishing whenever I want. Yeah. And
not knowing that he was about to lock himself into, there's no freedom. It's 80-hour a week. It's like, once you get going in the beginning, I mean, you're basically people. That's what people think. I'm going to start a business for freedom. And that's what everybody wants, but they don't realize, like, if you don't set it up right, you don't get freedom. It's like a jail cell.
You got to earn that freedom. It takes a while to earn it.
You have to earn it, and you have to know how to put the right people in place and get yourself in the systems and the processes. And that's one of the things I did was recorded every single process. Like if you had to write a check in my business, there was a video that you could go watch on the internet that was cloud-based that anyone could watch anywhere. They could watch that process on how to cut a check. I mean, every process in the business, I had to set out that way because you can't hand it off if you don't do it that way,
Yep. Well, and like you said earlier, it's like you get spread too thin and you're trying to figure out how to manage all these things. And I would say, you might be able to do it at 100% and somebody else might do it at an 80, but you can't build a process around 100%. Yeah. It's better if there's a process and it's 80% versus you just doing it with how you know to do it in your brain. Yeah, you might be great, but the nuance you can't build a process around. Like you need to make it repeatable every time that anybody can grab that thing and execute on it. And so it's like it's way better to build a business around a process at 80 to 90% than at one dude's tribal knowledge that he can solve any problem. Like it's not repeatable, right? You can't, well, maybe someday we'll build a clone ourselves, But I don't know if I wouldn't want all of me working in the business, right? Like my bookkeepers are way better at bookkeeping than I am. They're way more.
Yes, that's what you want. You want people that are experts at the thing that they do. And that's one of the things that I did in my business too. Back in 2018, I started hiring virtual assistants, which that was like unheard of back then in 2018. And even to today, I talk to some contractors like, wait, I'm going to hire an employee that doesn't come to my office. I'm like, yes, that's what you're going to do. I'm like, because they are experts at this one thing and they're literally only going to do one thing. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, their only role is going to be this one task and they're going to do it over and over and over and over again. And why you don't need a full-time person to do this. And like, I try to explain to people, they're like, wait, what? They're like, I don't understand. But you have to put the systems in place where it's so simple that you could like train a virtual assistant, hand it off. And, not every position could be filled by a virtual assistant, but those are certain things in your business that are repeatable that can be handed off to people that are experts at that one thing. 100%.
I want to go back because I lose my train of thought often. I'm also a podcast host, so you got to keep me on track. Otherwise, I get real distracted, But we were talking about this like entrepreneurial journey thing. My buddy Cole, started his pressure washing business to get that freedom to hunt and fish, and he did for a while. Like he took tons of hunting and fishing trips, but now he's got a serious girlfriend, right? And like she's starting to get into the business. And he's been doing it for a while, and he's just learned enough stuff. And it was fun to watch him on his journey because, like 2 years ago, he was on my show, and he and I hang out. He lives in Ohio, I'm in Minnesota, so we only hang out like a couple times a year on hunting trips. But every time, just what business owners do, right? Every time we hang out, all we know how to talk about is business stuff. And so he, in the last couple of years, kind of had this like inflection point of, I'm ready for that next set of problems. He skipped. We always do a Boundary Waters canoe trip every year up in the Boundary Waters northern Minnesota Canada border, and he skipped it this year. And I was like, Cole, what the hell, man? Like you're a staple on this trip. And he's like, yeah, but my business needs me, dude. I'm hiring new employees and I'm building systems and processes. And so he made a super conscious journey. Like he didn't stumble into it, but he said like, I'm going through this purgatory. Like I'm officially getting off the truck. I'm building the sales processes. And again, like, the mistakes have all already been made by other people, right? So he's like absorbed all the knowledge from listening to podcasts, from like going to trade shows and meeting the right people. And it's been super fun to watch him implement it because he's just on this fast track, right? Similar to like me restarting a bookkeeping business. I know all the stuff I already screwed up once. Yep. I can avoid it this time. And you can just go so much faster once you have a little bit of knowledge to play with, and it's out there. Like people have.
No, it's definitely out there. And there's a lot of interest groups that you could get into depending on the industry you're in. I mean, if you're a roofing industry, you could go to roofing interest groups. You could go to, it could be anything, flooring, landscaping. There's so much education out there now that if you get yourself into the right rooms, I didn't have that when I got into it. And that's one of the things that I wish, like in 2009, when I went off my own completely, I left my family business and I was completely on my own. I felt like, it was a very lonely thing. I'm like, who do I turn to? Where can I get education about how to run? And at that time I was in the oil tank service industry, which is a very niche industry in the Northeast. And, who am I going to learn from? It's not like roofing. I could have learned from anybody in the country, but this is like oil tanks in New Jersey. Like it's very specific. Yeah. So it's like, I had no one to turn to. It's like, I have to just figure this shit out as I go. And it was scary. So now, you could get into any interest group and you have to learn and educate yourself because that's how you're going to learn how to run the actual business of whatever thing you're doing,
Yeah. It is funny. I was in the Philippines a few weeks ago, like meeting our team. I had never met our bookkeeping team over there. All of them work through a company called Unique Genius. My friend Angela Chanowski and her husband JC own and run that, and they have like an annual summit with all of their partners in the Philippines. And I was like, I'm coming. Like I got 12 people on the team over there. Like, yeah, nice. Like, let me jump on in on this. And it was cool because even like my team members over there hadn't all met each other, right? Like the Philippines is a bunch of islands. Yep. They don't live together. So we all got to hang out for a while, and I was doing some coaching and like speaking with them. And one of the things I pointed out was to what you just said is like nobody, like being a business owner is a really lonely job. Nobody tells us we're doing a good job.
Yep.
Ever. Even our spouses, because a lot of times our spouses are just annoyed that we're still working.
Yes. Right?
Yeah,
exactly. 100%.
And so like they're proud of us, but they're also annoyed by us at the same time in a way. And so it's our job to like spread the praise to everybody else, but rarely is somebody coming back to tell us we're doing a good job. And and I mentioned that like business owners nobody tells them they're doing a good job, and they don't always know if they're doing a good job. We have some cool insight where we know if they're doing a good job. And so don't be afraid to tell a client like, fuck yeah, man, you're kicking ass. Like, really good job. Go after it. I had a client call me yesterday, and because she knows that I'll like give her the praise. She hit $1 million run rate in a maid service business, which is outstanding, right? Like, maid service is tough to hit $1 million. You're not selling any equipment.
No, the average ticket's so tiny. Yeah.
It's pure labor. You're just pure crushing labor. That's probably a 15, 20 employee business to hit that. And she hit that run rate this July, and I was her first call. She's like, Dan, you'll appreciate this, right? I'm like, you damn right I will. Wow. Like, this is what it's all about. Like, but a business owner needs another business owner to like tell him good job. So she wasn't afraid to ask me to tell her good job that she made it there. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, I love the the way it sounds like you guys you have a great relationship with your clients. And like I said, I mean, my experience with bookkeepers was basically like at the end of the month, you get a P&L in the email, and that was it. Like there was really no conversations, there was no strategy, there was nothing like that, which I think is big, because again, most business owners don't understand this stuff. It's like you get a P&L, it's like, all right, there's a bunch of numbers on there. They go right to the bottom, they look at the profit. Oh, I made money. And a lot of times I tell my clients, like, I guarantee you that profit's not accurate for a couple different reasons. A lot of guys are either running personal expenses through the business, or they're not paying themselves the right rate. A lot of guys will come to me like, oh, look how much profit. I'm at 30%. I'm like, okay, how much did you pay yourself? Well, I didn't really take a paycheck. Yeah. I'm like, well, then that's not 30%. I mean, because if someone's going to, and you're involved in the day to day, like you're doing all these hats, like you have to add back what it would take to replace you. And that's going to give you a true profitability. And now you can see, okay, well, now your pricing is off. Now this is so like, a lot of people, they just don't understand, and they think one thing. And if they have a guy like you to be able to strategize with them on a monthly basis, I think that's amazing.
You asked this question earlier and you kind of answered it here, but I want to bring it back and draw them together, which is like, what do I oftentimes see when I'm like looking at people's books? That factor of like not having themselves on payroll. That I have what I call Platta's 5 finance fundamentals. It just sounds cool because it's got all that alliteration built in. But one of them is to be taxed as an S corp and get yourself on payroll, because the only other person that, like, you shouldn't work for yourself for free. The only person that would ever work for you for free is your mama. That's it. Mom is the only person. And I know my mom has definitely worked for me for free. Like, she has helped me out. My dad, there's no way my dad would work for me for free. But my mom would. It's just a mom thing. It's a mom guilt thing, right? Forever 100%. And ever and ever. But nobody else is ever going to work for you for free. If you had to, you said it, if you had to go hire somebody to do your job, you're absolutely not going to do that job for free. You got the worst job in the world. You're herding cats, right? And so like you have to make sure that you build your business in a way that it can pay an operator and that it makes a profit for an owner. It's a little weird because you're both, right? But in my last finance fundamental for everybody, when I go through my 5, is like, know when you're the owner and know when you're the operator.
Yes,
I always
two
like
separate.
To say I'm an owner operator, but those are two different things, and they have two different purposes. Operators get paychecks, owners get dividends. And if you own stock in Amazon, you're an owner, but Bezos never calls you to come in on the weekend and move boxes, right? Like, you don't have a job, you don't get a paycheck. But when you're in the day-to-day of your business and you have a job, you got to get a paycheck. You got to get paid for the work that you do. And that also gives you good data to make sure that you're building it profitably when you're paying for all the stuff that it needs to pay for.
Yeah. No, I like that you said that, because that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. So what is your advice around distributions from an owner's perspective? Take away like whatever they're doing in the day to day, obviously they got to pay themselves, right? So they got whatever I usually tell my clients, whatever you're doing, let's figure out what that market rate is. And then that's what you should be paying yourself, nothing more, nothing less. And then the actual distribution, do you have a strategy around when they should be taking distributions, how often, how much money they should be keeping in the bank? Do you have any opinions on that?
It's so industry specific and like seasonality specific. Like when we were running window cleaning and pressure washing in North, we're like shut down for 4 months, right? Like December through March, we might be shut down. And so distributions, like there's definitely how much money should I keep in the bank account, right? But I don't want to just keep a pile of money in there, like not earning any interest. So I have a savings account that earns like 4.5% interest. And so once I have like a safety stock of a few payrolls covered, I'm going to put it into that savings account. Now, like, I'm going to keep a balance in there too, in case shit hits the fan and I got to put some money back into the business. but I don't want to like run the business dry or have too much in there, because if it's just money sitting there, it doesn't serve a purpose.
Yeah, it's dead money. Yeah.
I usually say distribute monthly. Like that's a fair cadence to me. I take a paycheck weekly, but I pay my employees weekly, and so therefore I pay myself weekly. Like I'm on the same cadence they are. As far as how much to pay myself, or any business owner for that matter, be taxed as an S corp. Like once you start making a profit, like a true net profit after depreciation and everything, and let's say it's over 25,000. Make sure you're taxed as an S corp. Get yourself on payroll. I don't care if you're taking $300 a week as a paycheck.
Something,
it's something, and it's going to keep going up, and you revisit it every month. Like you're constantly playing this game of how much to take as a wage versus how much to take as distributions. A general sweet spot is if you're going to take $100,000 out of the business this year, you would take 50 as a wage and 50 as distributions. It tends to be about a 50-50 thing. Just it lands that way by its nature when you're like super involved in the day-to-day. Part of what the IRS is looking at too is they have an audit trigger that if you take too little of a wage, it starts to look like you're not taking, like their language is reasonable wage, which is why, Teddy, you said like pay what you'd have to pay somebody else. It's got to be reasonable. And reasonable can go a lot of different ways, because if you're early on and you're reinvesting everything and you're not making a profit, how much
of course
you really afford to pay yourself, right? But if you're doing $5 million in revenue and there's $500,000 sitting in the bank account, right? Like if you take a $50,000 wage and take a $450,000 distribution, the IRS is gonna be like, I don't think that's not reasonable, right? And so it tends to be about 50-50 as you scale. Now, at some point, if you're doing $10 million, you might not really be in the business that much. And even if you are doing 10 million, you're probably paying a CEO 250,000 ish. Like that would be what you'd pay yourself. Now your distributions might be a couple mil, right? Like you still have to make that wage be reasonable, but the game changes a little bit as you like truly get a scaled business. I think the biggest thing to me is just that you have that representative wage. Early on, you're playing the tax game. I didn't mention the tax side of it, but the reason to be taxed as an S corp is now you only have to pay payroll taxes on your wage instead of also on all the net income of the business. So the mechanism is a tax savings thing for payroll taxes. That's why you want to be taxed as an S corp. And again, then you put yourself on payroll, and because of that tax, like because of the tax play, you're incentivized to take a smaller wage because you have to pay taxes on it, the payroll taxes. So like ideally you're taking as small of a wage as you can justify as reasonable. But it's got to be reasonable, because otherwise you're screwing yourself by giving yourself bad data if you don't take a big enough paycheck. So there's like a sweet spot in there to be reasonable and be tax efficient and not have the IRS come knock on your door. And your bookkeeper should be looking at that with you, right? Like that's what a good bookkeeper is they're not saying like, here's your P&L, good luck. They're saying, hey, you're getting really profitable. Make sure you're taking the right amount as a wage. I have like links where my clients can just book time. If they want to like nerd out on it, we jump on a call and dive in and adjust their paycheck to make sure it's in the sweet spot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What are some of the, I know you've probably seen, especially in home services, I know the guys I speak to, but like you probably see a lot of this personal expenses going through the accounts and that type of stuff. I mean, how do you usually handle that when you see stuff that's egregious and you're like, hey, listen, this is not going to fly. Like, I always tell my clients, like, I mean, for me, like I always try to help my clients to build value in their business, right? So the first thing that anybody's gonna look at, if you ever go to sell, you want to go to bank loan, anything like this, they're going to want to see clean books, right? So this is something that I didn't do for the first 15 years. I had all kinds of companies, like you said, they were all intertwined. The one company was sharing expenses with this company. So it was like a mess. I went to sell one of my companies back in 2015. The broker laughed me out of the room. Basically, he's like, hey, this is not sellable. And I was pulling a lot of money out of there, profit wise. And he's like, you can't sell this. The books are a complete mess. No one can decipher how much is really coming out of here. I mean, I had binders I brought to him, like, trying to explain every transaction. He's like, yeah, that's not going to fly, So, I guess I'm sure you see a lot of that, right? It's a big portion of like small business owners that they do a lot of that. And I mean, what's your take on that?
So my number one finance fundamental is separate business and personal, because it's not a damn hobby and you can't make good decisions without good data. Like if it's muddy, you're just doing yourself the disservice of you don't actually know what's going on, right? Then you said it earlier, you're running your business by like, how much money is left in my bank account? Oh, I guess I do have money to do this. Right? It's not, you're reactive instead of proactive and strategic. So we're constantly coaching our clients to like get all the personal stuff out. Personal is personal, business is business.
Yep.
And the more you can keep them separate, the easier your life is. It tends to be that really early on in our businesses, we're very inclined to intermingle. Especially like meals and entertainment stuff. We're like out with the wife and we're like, yeah, swipe it, business it's tax deduction. But as we start hiring employees, we're like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't put my lunch on the business every day because I don't want them to put their lunch on the business every day, right? Like I'm gonna buy them some snacks for the shop and some waters and some Gatorades and whatever, but I'm gonna go to Costco and load up. I don't want them stopping at the gas station for $10 for a sandwich every day, right? And so I tend to see once somebody gets like that second crew going and they're not the dude on the truck anymore, they usually swing that way where they're more diligent about business versus personal. It's usually early on where you get a lot of personal stuff. One of the things that you mentioned this too, when you get like multiple businesses, we have a lot of clients where it'll be multiple locations or multiple divisions. We have like one HVAC client, has their maintenance department, their service department, their install department. They bought a plumbing business. So now we have a fourth division, and that plumbing business will end up with each of those departments. And so when we do the bookkeeping, we actually split it up so they can see cost of goods sold and gross
by
margin
division.
by division.
Yes.
And sometimes we have this in Minneapolis. So I'm still involved in a window cleaning and pressure washing business here. Then we started doing high rise window cleaning. But our insurance company said, hey, if you guys start doing high rise, we're going to drop you. We're not here to like watch you guys fall off the side of a building. Right. And so legally we had to set up a different entity. We still run it together. It's two separate legal entities. We still pay for a lot of the marketing stuff, the rent, the software, like so many things get shared. The admin team gets shared. We pay for it out of our main like residential company. But then every month we have a process to allocate a certain amount of expenses for those shared things back and forth. And so it's all like doable in the books, but to exactly what you said, Teddy, if you don't do that, like we have a client right now who's a good buddy of mine. I got to sit down with him and like force him to do this. Right now he has a pressure washing business that makes like negative $100,000 and a holiday light business that makes about $400,000. And I'm like, man, the only reason that's happening is because your pressure washing business pays for everything for the holiday light business, and you don't have a mechanism to share it. Like, we got to build that mechanism to transfer expenses so that you actually know which business is making you money, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, you think your holiday light business is crushing it, and he does, and I think it is, but like, he hates his pressure washing business. He thinks it's losing the money. And I'm like, it's not. It's just because it's paying for all your shit that you're using in the other business. You got to get good data so you can tell what's actually happening.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I have a client that has 4 divisions inside their company, and it is exactly that. And it comes down to clean entries, right? So if the data entry is not good, you're not going to have good outputs. You're not going to be able to make good decisions. And like I sit with them and I'm like, they want to make decisions. And I'm like, all right, let's look at the books. I'm looking at the books and I'm like, all right. So I start making decisions. I start talking about certain things. He's like, but I don't know if that's accurate. I'm like, well, all right, if that's not accurate, then what I'm telling you is not going to work because we have to make sure that this is accurate. You have to go sit with the bookkeeper and like talk about it. Like, and then again, putting that process together of like, all right, when that invoice comes in, what is the exact process that you follow? And then down to literally who opens the mail, who reviews it, and it's like step by step by step. And then who says it goes to get classified over here. And then you go through each literally, and we put a process together so then it can get put in correctly, because if it's not put in correctly, you just have bad data, you're making bad decisions.
Yep. One thing that I find often, and I'm super biased, so take this everybody with a large grain of salt because this is my world here. I don't see a lot of CPAs. Like we need everybody needs a good tax person. There's a reason why people go to school forever to learn that stuff. But I don't see really any CPAs that do a good job of bookkeeping, because they're when they do bookkeeping, they're doing it for themselves. They're not doing it to provide you better data. They're doing it to organize it so they can put it into their tax software. And they don't have the same sense of urgency. They're not trying to provide you reporting to help you run your business. Some act like they are, but even the ones that say that they do, I just don't see them execute on it well because they're so tax focused. Yes. A good bookkeeper is a finance person, right? Like, again, what a good bookkeeper will do will inform the tax person, but it's not a tax activity. It's a finance activity. It's meant to like organize things to actually help you make decisions. And so if you're out there and you've got a tax person doing your books and you're like, Yeah, you're right. They're not timely. They don't check in with me every single week. They don't organize it industry specific. They don't send me like an industry specific report card at the end of the month. It's because they're doing the books, like you're paying them to do your bookkeeping, but they're doing it for themselves. They're not doing it for you, right? Like your bookkeeper's got to know your industry, got to know the decisions that you're making. Your bookkeeper is like a coach. They're a CFO, right? And I think I don't think everybody understands that's what bookkeeping is and what it should be. That term gets used like for so many different things, but like that bookkeeper is sexier than you think they are. Like there's so much value they can add if they really understand where their role is.
Yeah, no, that's huge. I mean, I've had so many bookkeepers in my day where they just didn't know what they were doing, and they completely destroyed the books. And at that time, I didn't know what I was doing. So it's like I'm hiring somebody thinking that, they're a bookkeeper, so they should know this stuff. Yeah, no, that's not how it works. I mean, you have to understand the basics, like you were saying in the beginning. Like you have to have a basic understanding of how this stuff works. And this way you could monitor it, because if you don't, they'll just take your books and make them a complete mess. And now you're going backwards, which I'm sure you've come across that a lot, where you got to clean up people's books. Now you're going back into the history, which takes forever. That's a big project. That's costly, time consuming. So you want to dial this in. You want to make sure you got the right guy working on your books for sure. 100%.
I do find, and I tell people this when I like do the demo with them, is there's certain cases where I'll look at their QuickBooks and my advice is let's burn this one down and start a new one. Because me starting with a fresh QuickBooks, even if we have to go, it's July 31st today, if we have to go back to January 1st and catch it up, that'll be cheaper than if we have to try to figure out what the hell the last person did wrong, figure out how to undo it, redo it, re-reconcile it, re-report it. It generally takes 3 to 4 times as long to clean stuff up when it's done incorrectly versus just get it right the first time. So if you're out there and you're like, man, I'll just do it myself. Again, like you don't need to be an accountant. You just need to know what the data says, right? You need a good financial coach, but you don't need to be a QuickBooks expert. You don't need to be an accountant. You need to be an expert of building systems and processes and hiring people and marketing. That's what you need to spend your time on. Don't worry about being a QuickBooks expert. Do worry about being a finance expert and being an expert at finding the right resources. Unless you really love bookkeeping. But if you really love bookkeeping, you probably wouldn't be running a home service business. I don't know anybody that got into home services that's like, yeah, I know I'm running this business, but I'm really just here because I want to measure some shit. Like, no. Nobody's ever told me that.
I got to at the end. So the way I set it up, because I was so frustrated with a lot of the bookkeepers I had, in the end, I literally took and I broke down each process of accounts payable and accounts receivables. And then I assigned that to either someone in my office that I could train to do certain tasks, entering invoice, basic stuff that you could put a process together, have them do it and make it repeatable. Then I had like a CFO level guy that would come in on a monthly basis, like you're saying, that would give me the coaching, that would go through the books with me, make sure they were clean, make sure the entries were done properly. And I just didn't even have a bookkeeper. I literally had each thing that needed to get done for payables, receivables, that was allocated to certain people that were just all they did was payables. This one just did receivables. And then I had a CFO level guy that would come in once a month and would help and review and coach me on those decisions. So I think that's great that you do that for your clients. I mean, if you don't mind talking about it, do you, is it like a monthly fee? I mean, how does that work?
So with every client, we have like a setup process, because no matter what, whether it's a brand new QuickBooks or somebody's been screwing it up for 10 years, like we got to organize it specific to their industry, get it dialed in and figure out the payroll stuff and their CRM data and whatever. So there's a setup process. Then there's whatever cleanup needs to be done. And
there's always cleanup. There's always cleanup.
Sometimes it's crazy. You're just like, all right, here we go. And like I said, there's definitely certain cases where I'll just say like, let's burn this one down and start a fresh one. That's easier, saves you money, saves us time. And then we price everything monthly. And I price it based on level of activity. And a lot of my competitors will price based on revenue or the size of your company. And I'm like, man, I'm not the government. I don't want to penalize you for making more money. Like that's not what I'm here for. And when I'm running a home service business, I'm not going out to Mrs. Jones's house and saying like, oh, Mrs. Jones makes more money than this other person, so I'm going to charge her more. I'm looking at her square footage. I'm looking at, what needs to get done. So when I'm pricing bookkeeping, I'm looking at not how much money does the client make, but how much activity is there? How many transactions, how many transfers, how many different bank accounts and credit cards, like all of that is what dictates our workload. So the more fiscally efficient they are, the less I charge them. I don't care if they're a $5 million company. I don't charge them more because they're bigger, right? I don't like that business principle. I want to charge them fairly for the level of work that it takes to do a kick-ass job for them. And I don't like, one of my competitors, I had a few of their clients trying to switch to me, and then they'd come back and be like, well, we'll do it for this much, right? Like they're trying to lower their price. And I just laughed at them. I'm just like, I told the person, I was like, I promise you, I will never lower my price. Because what an insult. Like, oh, sorry, I've been screwing you over for the last 2 years, but now that you're about to leave, now I can actually price what's fair, right? I'm like, I will always price it fair. I'll never negotiate it because I know I'm a finance guy. I know exactly what the margin structure is. I know exactly what it costs us to do a kick-ass job, and I will never sacrifice that. Like, we're best damn bookkeeping. We're not pretty darn average bookkeeping. Like, we have to be the best, and I know what it costs for us to do that. We're not the most expensive. My goal isn't to be the most expensive to make the most amount of money. My goal is to help the most amount of people. So it's got to be priced fair, that it works for everybody. But on the process end, I think this is what we have figured out that makes us really sticky for our clients. We have one KPI, which you'd think like as a bookkeeping business, I'd have a ton of them. I measure the shit out of everything, but I only have one that I really care about, and that's client attrition. And I tell our team, and apologize for my French, but I tell them, like, we don't fucking lose clients. Like, if we know, and it's always a communication thing. Like, communication is the most important part of bookkeeping.
100%. I mean, any business, I tell all my clients, I mean, communication will save you like 10 out of 10 times. If you could over communicate, I always tell my office staff, I don't care. I put systems in place where they literally would over communicate, and then the clients would be blown away. They'd be like, I've never had anybody like notify me this much. Like, we were over communicating with our clients. I was huge on that because that is, it is massive, and that'll help you keep a lot of your clients if you over communicate with them. I could guarantee that.
Big time. So we have processes we communicate with every single client every single week, which is like unheard of for bookkeepers. But I'm like, we need to know what they have going on, and they need to know that we're on top of it for them. So even if we don't have a question for a client, we still check in and say, hey, everything's good this week. No questions for you. Have a kick-ass week, and let us know if you need anything from us. And then at the end of the month, when we do that report, like I mentioned earlier, we send a video analysis. And it's not to try to tell a client what to do. It's more, our account manager is more like their tour guide. Like, hey, Teddy, you mentioned you want to keep an eye on this, and here's what it did last month. And then, hey, compared to last year, that same month, here's where you're at. So you're getting better, you're getting worse. Hey, you mentioned you want to rent a new facility. Well, here's where your infrastructure costs are at. Here's what's normal for the industry. So if you do that, then you got to get your revenue up to here to get back in line, right? Like, we're a tour guide. We're not going to say you should go rent that facility or you should go rent this one. Hey, you should do this marketing thing or you should do that marketing thing. I'll do that with our clients because I've also made those decisions, but I don't have our account managers do that. I don't want them to like stick their neck out and make a recommendation. So they're just kind of the tour guide, and then I'll come in and play coach if our client needs help making a decision like that. But the thing I love most about the video analysis, kind of two things. One is it really holds us accountable. Because you cannot go on a video call on video with a client, and granted we're recording them, but you can't bullshit somebody, right? I couldn't come on and be like, Teddy, let me tell you what's going on in your business, and then like,
and you don't know what's going on,
right? Like, because you know what's going on in your business, so it holds us really accountable. Like, we have to know our stuff, and we have to get it right. Because if the data is wrong, and you go start trying to like read it to a client, you'd be like, oh crap! Like, and I've had that happen where I like had a mistake. And I found it, and I was like, yep, got to go fix it. And then I'll come back and re-record this video. But it's like a good double check process for us. And the other side of it is it allows us to ask for context. And I think that, again, back to the communication thing, we might see something goofy and be like, Teddy, like, does this make sense to you, right? Like, your cost of goods sold was really high this month. Is that tracking? Do you have a pricing issue? Do you have a employee like pay issue? Did you have a turnover issue and you hired a bunch of people and so you got training, or like, did you buy a bunch of supplies? Like, here's where we see it, but does this make sense to you? Or do we have something in the wrong spot? Or do you have something that's going sideways on you? Like, now we don't always know, but at least it gives us the opportunity to ask instead of, again, just sending a PDF and saying, hey, Teddy, here you go. Good luck. So that's huge. Has been awesome.
I just had a client that had for the longest time, they were not looking at their books the way you're just explaining it. And for about 2 years, they had one of their employees that was going to Home Depot, and they were on the company credit card. They were buying gift cards, $50, $25, $50. And it's like, it's getting snuck in on the receipt. Receipts weren't getting looked at close enough. And for 2 years, this employee was just buying gift cards on their Home Depot card, because they would go Home Depot once, twice, 3 times a week and get materials, and then bang, $50, $25. It was a lot of money they stole over about a 2-year period. And if you were looking at their books, you probably would have seen like, hey, why these Home Depots, they used to be this much. Now all of a sudden they're this much.
Supply cost is up a few.
Yeah, like exactly. Well, yeah, so you have to look at those stuff, and you have to look at percentage to revenue, all that type of stuff. So you can see like, all right, well, it was roughly about 10% to revenue. Now we're running at 14%. Well, let's dive into that line item and let's see what's going on. Now you can start breaking it down. And if you're not looking at that level, you will get robbed. I mean, I had bookkeepers steal from me. I had people in the field steal from me. So like, if you're not on top of the stuff, it could easily happen to you for sure.
I was just telling the story today. We're with one of our clients. They have 7 different companies, and so we're like working on the entire strategy. We're in the setup phase with them of like, how do we want to organize everything? And part of that, like coaching that I'm doing with them, is gas cards versus credit cards, and like some of those systems and processes. Because I too was burned by that. We had fuel cards, but they were specific to a certain gas station, and it just didn't have the security of like a WEX card or different fuel programs. But I'm looking at my P&L, and it's like, I know exactly what my fuel percentage should be. We use Ford Transit vans in our window cleaning business because they're really fuel efficient. And so like 2.5% is our number. And year over year, our fuel was up like 0.2%, but gas costs had been down. And I was like, man, something just seems weird. And I looked through the fuel log, and granted, like I should have been doing this more often. This was a new process we put in place because I wasn't watching it as close as I should have been. And I was like, man, who's filling our transit up at 8 o'clock at night? Why is it 16 gallons? Because our transit only holds 14.7 gallons.
Exactly.
And I asked the gas station, like, hey, can you send me a picture or a video of like us filling up there? And they sent a picture, and it was my number 2 guy's wife filling up their SUV. $5,000 of fuel I was out that year. $5,000 of it. It was mostly that guy and his wife, but 2 other employees had done the same thing. They would take the gas card home with them. We didn't, and it, like, you're not going to bulletproof your business from that stuff. You will get taken advantage of, and hopefully you learn fast enough. And it, like, the minute something screws up, it just tells you. I mean, and it's a journey. Like, you're going to screw stuff up all the time. That's the best part about being a business owner, is you just get the privilege of screwing stuff up over and over again and learning hard. But the minute you do, new process, right? Like your business 100%. Tells you exactly where you need systems and processes. And so the minute that happened, new fuel cards, new process, new system, we're going to screw stuff up, but it's our business. We get to change it tomorrow. That's the beauty of it.
That's all. Yeah, that's exactly it. You got to just dial in those processes as those issues come up, and you just keep iterating. You know, people think, oh, you set up your processes once and then you forget about it. No. Those are constantly being worked on. It's a constant thing. You set them up initially, but then as the process are getting broken or they change because for whatever reason, you're constantly tweaking those processes and make them more efficient. And yes, absolutely, 100%. Well, Dan, this has been a really, really cool conversation, man. This has been awesome. I mean, I could talk business with you like for hours. I feel like we could go back and forth. We have a lot of the same. History with a bunch of different companies and everything like that. So it's really cool. And, where can guys find you if they want to check you out? How do they get in touch with you?
bestdamnbookkeeping.com. It is what it says it is. If you want to like book a call with me or anything, just go on there, and there's a button at the top to book time on my calendar. So if you need bookkeeping help or just want to nerd out on business, clearly I love talking about business stuff. It's hard to shut me up sometimes. And then I've got a podcast, Home Service Happy Hour. I'm from Wisconsin. So even my logo for Best Damn Bookkeeping has a beer in it. The B is beer.
Nice.
Because bookkeeping doesn't have to be boring and lame. It can be fun. We can have a beer too. So I have the Home Service Happy Hour podcast. We just nerd out, talk to business owners, have a couple drinks, just like you're sitting at a bar having a beer with somebody. And obviously, if you do it, they're a business owner and you're a business owner, that's all you're going to talk about. So the podcast is kind of emulate that. Teddy, you might want to join. You might want to come on.
I might have to. Yeah, that sounds really cool, bro. I definitely have to join you there.
So yeah, go check that out. It's on Facebook. It's on YouTube. It's on Instas and TikTokies, and we're LinkedIn. I'm going live on LinkedIn these days for the professionals. But yeah, just trying to make bookkeeping not super boring and have some fun with it. So.
All right, cool. Dan, I appreciate you coming on. And if you guys love this content and you like more of it, subscribe, Modern Contractor TV. And thanks, Dan. I look forward to our relationship in the future here.
Heck yeah, Teddy. Thanks for having me on, man.
All right, man. Thanks.